the fact that the very conservative, tough on crime Democrat Whitmire that you highlighted, who's in his 70s, he's been in state government since he was in college, and the outgoing mayor Turner are on like very different sides of this dispute essentially over arbitration between firefighters and the city. And the AFL-CIO has endorsed the more conservative Democrat here, Whitmire, in a fairly crowded field. So this is just a unique kind of coalition fracture that you don't necessarily see. I'm wondering if you could expand on it.
Yeah, so Whitmire, he got the endorsement of the AFL-CIO. But he also has the endorsement of a bunch of, Republican mega donors. Tillman Fertitta, actually, the owner of the Houston Rockets, sort of held the event where he announced his campaign, and the AFL-CIO was there. He's gotten money from the Teamsters, but also Mattress Mac, who's this kind of local character, sells mattresses, but he's also very much, a Trump supporter. Yeah. And what's interesting about it is the fact that Whitmire was sort of able to outflank Turner as a sort of progressive candidate on this issue in particular. To talk a little bit more about the firefighter union and the sort of issue that was going on there. Basically, in 2003, voters, the Houston voters, through a proposition, agreed to allow the Houston firefighters to negotiate. Finally, they're a union and they didn't have even the right to negotiate.
Yeah.
Wow. And
they still don't have the right to strike. Public employees in Texas don't have that. You have that in other areas, but I mean, just to give you a sense of what what they have to work with here.
Yeah, so it's a long and sort of protracted struggle that they are going through. When my source joined the firefighters in 2016, the average wage for cadets was around $28,000-$29,000 a year, which coincidentally, if you just fast forward to where we are now, Houston is starting their own sort of universal basic income pilot program, and that's the cutoff. If you make $29,000 a year, if you're a firefighter at this point in time, you qualified for people who are 200% below the poverty line. So in around 2017, they go to the mayor and they demand increased wage, as unions do. But that, as I understand it, there were sort of two factors there. There's one that has to do with like budgeting, the same sort of stuff you hear from a CEO, like we don't have the money for it. And there's another thread where a lot of people I talk to are like, the firefighters union, they can be a little bit abrasive when it comes to their demands. And Mayor Turner, the quote I have in the piece is he's a little thin-skinned. He took it personally when they made such strong demands to him. And so he just kind of refused to negotiate. As a lot of, similar to, the former Starbucks CEO, he kind of like made his own concessions on his own and was like, over the course of so-and-so years, like you're going to get 6% raises every other, year. So where we are today, the firefighters got an 18% raise total, but that wasn't really what they were asking for. Like, it's still on the mayor's terms, which is a problem when it comes to collective bargaining and things like that. So that's where the firefighters sort of, that's where that came in. Whitmire's bill, what he was trying to do is mandate that the mayor must negotiate with the union. That's the mandatory arbitration bit. Basically, like, there is a representative from the union camp, a representative from the city camp, and a neutral party, and they have to come to a deal. That's the bill. And sort of surprisingly, when that happened, a lot of liberals were upset. They were like, Whitmire is already messing with the budget. He is, enacting decrees in similar ways that Republicans have, that have affected our elections, that have taken control of our school board, that have, done all these other things. It kind of grouped in with him because he's a conservative Democrat. But what the bill does is actually fairly progressive. So there's this weird push and pull that makes the race a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, and we'll just kind of wrapping things up here. I mean, that's what's interesting is the fact that the left in Houston and in Texas, maybe more broadly, although it's a huge state, so I can't make wide generalizations. But what you highlight is that the liberal coalition, does not seem to be married in the way that other cities, other more progressive municipalities are to labor. And this fracture is being exploited by a more conservative Democrat who is on their side. I mean, I think it's also notable that he is white, Whitmire, versus the current mayor who is black. And the firefighters, you quote in your piece that they're stereotypically associated with being Trump supporters, and that is not necessarily making the best case for broader leftist leadership within Houston.
Right. Yeah. I think my source, the rank and file firefighter, he sort of said it best when he said that, the fact that there isn't a left candidate who really lobbied for union support and could also lobby to, the different interest groups that make up the Progressive Coalition is a failure on the Houston left's part. I think it comes down to a lot of different things. The liberals in Houston will tell you that it's mainly a budgeting issue. There was a sort of regressive austerity tax placed on property taxes, which makes it very hard for the city to sort of raise money in order to, keep parks and roads paved and, clean. And if they give so-and-so amount of money to the firefighters, then that sort of messes everything up in the budget. And, parks will go, untended to and things like that. But I think what my firefighter source was sort of telling me is we need to sort of expand the scope of what our government is capable of doing. And, giving unions more power in order to negotiate with the mayor and helping to build labor power in the city will help us repeal things like that austerity tax and help us to get funding for more things and, tax people more equitably and things like that.
As opposed to pitting people against each other, which is, that's what conservative politics really sometimes boils down to. Sam Russek, the piece in the New Republic is entitled "Houston's Mayoral Race is Exposing the Left's Fault Lines." We'll be monitoring this race for sure in the lead up to it. Really appreciate your time today, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.